Hello everybody, and today we're going to do something differently again. And this time we're having another discussion talking about something else I want to have in mind. Though this one won't be much of a discussion, more like something quickly because it's just something I really want to know about for everybody else. It is about talking about writer shows, specifically if you would prefer one that had either one writer or have multiple writers. Now I know, it might not be possible for Toei to ever do this never in the future, but I would like to know more about why writer show would actually be with one writer. I would like to know how you guys would feel about it because this is something that's been on my mind for a while now, especially since I was actually somebody who actually like watching older shows like Showa era and all that. I know for the fact that Showa era actually did that a lot, that they usually only had one writer for the most part, but even if they had like somebody else, like the original Kamen Rider show having an Ichigo or Nigo, it usually just had them be the main character for almost a few episodes. Like, I know for Kamen Rider Nigo, in the original Kamen Rider show, he took over for almost 30 episodes, or even 40 episodes before Ichigo came back. So technically he was still just a one writer show. And I've been wondering if that actually is possible, because one writer show could be useful to just only focusing on one writer, maybe help them in their own development for their character and all that. And they can have other people around them, like not be writers or anything, instead of just focusing on just characters around them, and them actually being developed as well with any writer form. And technically speaking, it won't be that bad, because I remember that Kuga having like multiple writer forms, even for the beginning of the Heisei era. If I remember correctly, he had like about 11 or maybe 12 forms, just be that on that show. The thing is though, that was throughout his entire show, and as well as any spin-off and all that, because nowadays 11 and 12 forms usually are given to a main character before they get their super form, or something before they get their final form. And it's pretty interesting to realize how different things are compared to how things were back in the past. And I still think that having a writer where only one writer can still technically work all the time, because we've seen that a lot with the subsequent spin-off thing. And I'm pretty sure there is a lot of things happening with writer shows, because having one writer is pretty interesting to have, like, back to the basic formula just from the Showa era. But the thing is, even back then in the Showa era, many of their Showa era didn't have that many episodes. Like, some of them only had a few. Like, I do remember X only having like 30, Amazon being like 24, but I think that mostly because of productions problems rather than actual reason why they wanted to end the show that quickly. And even then, I still think that even early on some Heisei show, they still technically had a one writer show for the most part of some shows. Yeah, I know that 5 took a while before Kaiza entered and Delta. Also, other show I think I remember off the top of my head would be Den-O. Den-O also took a while before his secondary writer Zeronos appeared on screen. Not that much. Many of these examples I'm saying, like Forze, Double, and even recently with Kamen Gotchard, many of the writer forms don't appear on the show until like around episode like 14 or to 20, but many of them do appear in the movies, like the winter movies, something like that. So I will say that many of these writer forms technically are a one writer show, and it is pretty interesting to see that it still technically works. But I can see why they probably will not do it, because I think it's mostly just tradition now to include more writers, especially with the talk about, secondary, tertiary writer. But even then, I would be interested to do something similar to like Wizard or something. I know for a fact Wizard only had like 2 writers for the majority of the season. They didn't add like the last few, like I think the mages and wise men and all that. Remember correctly, Kamen Rider Wise Man in the Wizard show technically didn't even do much for the majority of the show until like near the end, around the 30s or 40s. Technically, the majority of the show had just been a 2-writer show between, I think, Wizard and the secondary writer Beast. Technically, that would actually be interesting to see something like that again. That's some sort of question I also want to know if that actually is possible, because remember correctly, it will actually benefit writer shows having some characteristic, because some shows would benefit from having multiple writers, like just going back and forth and having character development for them, like just having more of a viewpoint on why they become writers, to why they fight and all that. And also, it's pretty interestingly, even then, like, it's pretty fun to see an evil writer for the most part, like an evil Kamen Rider on the opposite side of the good guy. Funnily enough, this would actually be interesting to see today, because it would be interesting to see now with more technology and all that, like if you have one writer more focused on things around them, kind of like something similar to, like, I like to see like a one writer show just for the sake of it, because I just want to see if they would actually pull it off. like one of the main series be a one-writer show, because it would be interesting to see just seeing how a one-writer show would work today. Like just having one superhero inside a writer show and seeing how that would affect with the general public. Not sure if that would actually work, because majority of the fan base usually would be the audience in Japan rather than outside. Because that does leave a problem with too much with the head bosses, Toei themselves. Because I know for a fact that Toei probably won't actually do it, because Toei really want that money, baby. More writers mean more toys to actually sell, and more gimmicks to sell as well to the children, and also to the adults that are collectible. It also probably help with the marketing as well, because usually we are used to primary, secondary, and sometimes tertiary writers like being part of our show, so it would not be that far off from thinking that it would not be that crazy to assume that they would probably benefit having multiple writers for marketing, because that way they can have, like, say for instance, maybe somebody doesn't like the main character at all, who actually is only one writer. So introducing more writers, they might actually have people who may not gravitate toward one of them, may gravitate to another one. Like, they can actually do it with designs and personality and all that, so I could actually see why they would rather actually do benefit from that, you know, other than the money. Because always, don't worry about the money, baby. Also, it wouldn't really help with too much with, you know, tradition, as that would be pretty much weird to actually expect Toei to actually make a show with just one writer, except for like a spin-off or an individual movie by itself. So I don't really expect them to actually do it, especially now with marketing and all that. Like, it's really be really weird to see one without only one writer throughout the whole show and never actually have another one. But to be honest, that would be pretty fun to see if a writer show can be made today, because to be honest, most of Reiwa is pretty enjoyable, but it still feels like a version of Heisei Phase 2. If they manage to make some sort of shakeup, like we do need some sort of shakeup for Reiwa season to be different from Heisei season, because for majority of the time it still feels like Heisei Phase 2 for majority of the Reiwa writer. Like many of them will not feel out of place for Reiwa Phase 2, so I kind of wondering if we do need something to shake on. I'm wondering if having a show with just one writer will actually benefit that, for not just for them but for the rest of us as well. Overall, that's all I have to say right now, because not really much of a discussion, more like I did mostly just a video wanted to hear what your guys' thoughts are on about having a show with just one writer or multiple writers. Actually, I do want to know mostly if you guys prefer to watch a season with just one writer, or do you prefer watching a season with multiple writers as a way to become more of an enjoyable factor for you, or do you just not care, you would prefer either one? Also, I would like to hear if you guys have any if any of these two shows have any advantages or disadvantages you might actually want to come up with your own head, and also comment down below about all those details. I don't know, I just really want to know more about what you guys' thoughts are, mostly for this discussion version. Leave a comment down below to talk more about Kamen Rider. Peace.